Hello everyone, this is Western New York Fly Guy. I'm doing my first fly tying video here for you. Sorry, but I'm going to do a little bit of a boring pattern. I'm going to do a woolly bugger. I know it's, generic and you can find a tutorial video anywhere for it, but I figure salmon season's coming up and woolly buggers are one of my favorite patterns to fish for salmon and for steelhead. Swinging them through riffles and through nice deep pools is a really effective way of catching up and hooking into nice big Great Lakes salmonids. So what you're going to need for this pattern is black marabou. I like the strung marabou versus the stems. You're going to need crystal flash. You can use any color you want, but I like blue. It just seems to give it a little bit more of a different color to it. You're also going to need some woolly bugger chenille to wrap around your hook, and you're going to need a saddle hackle. So to start out, I'm using a number 8 hook, with a 4.5 millimeter bead. This particular one's copper, but you can use chrome, nickel, brass, or whatever you really want. I just happen to be short on copper beads in my box, so I'm just gonna tie up a copper one. You can use 140 or 80 denier. It doesn't seem to make a huge difference, but I'm gonna use 80 here just because I had it on my bobbin. So you're gonna just get a nice thread base going down here to start off with. Now I like to put the flash in first. Makes it a little less overbearing. It gives it a nice iridescence to it. If you put it right on top, the flash is right in your face and it can spook some wary fish on days where it might be clear or the sun might be out. So I just like to go subtle on all my flies. So you're going to make 8 strips. You fold it in half once, you fold it in half again, and then you fold it in half one more time to get nice even strips. Now you don't want them all even and straight. I Palomar mine out. I space mine out a little bit. So what you want to do is make the length of your flash just shorter than the shank of your hook. That's how I like to do it. And now you can let those flash fibers really nice and rotate around the hook to get them nice and even spaced out. Go all the way back to the bend, and I cut these off. Some guys fold them back like this and tie them in, but for me that's just too much flash for this fly. Too much than I want. Alright, now add in the marabou feather. I like to lick my marabou feathers when I put them on so that it gets all the airspace out. And it's nice and streamlined, and I can measure up real easy. Measure the shank of the hook, put it right down on there. Now you don't want your tails too long, but you don't want them too short either. Tails that are too long make the fly look goofy, and tails too short make the fly look goofy. You cut that off. Alright, the next thing you want to do here is tie in your hackle feather. You can see how the feather is curved like this. You want to tie that in so that the curve is facing away from you. When you do that, it'll make the curve flow back as you wrap the feather forward, resembling a more natural flow once it's in the water. So you want to just take your feather here, line it up, and tie it in good and tight. I found that if you don't tie it nice and tight in, it tends to come off and fall apart while you're on the water, and then you're just stuck with a fly that's got a marabou tail and pretty much nothing else. The last thing we're going to tie on to the end here is that piece of woolly bugger chenille. So I take off some of the black to expose the thread underneath. And I do that so that I don't create so much bulk on the back of my fly. You can already see there's a big jump right here and then down to the shank of the hook. And I just want to kind of reduce that by taking the chenille off these two little fibers that hold it together. So then you tie that in as well. Once all that's good and tied down nice and tight, wrap it forward. And then I like to whip finish and then cut off the thread. Some of you might have a tool on your vise that allows you to keep your bobbin in a nice place, but then I'm going to use the vise to wrap the chenille first. And then get your hackle pliers, and you're just going to let that dangle there. Now you're going to take your thread, go right on the other edge of the bead, make a few wraps with your thread, and then go once around your chenille. And now you're good to cut your tag end of your thread as well as the extra chenille right off. Alright, now the last step is to wrap your feather. Now I always wrap my feathers by hand. I don't use hackle pliers. I've had bad luck with the feathers breaking right where the hackle pliers come onto it. But I will use hackle pliers just to hold it nice and tight. So now we'll go do a couple wraps around to tie that in nice and good and nip that off. Now we're almost done here. Almost. All we gotta do now is do a whip finish. I always do a couple, especially with the small thread size, because it doesn't take up hardly any space. Tighten it down real good, nip it off, and you're done. The beauty of this fly is that this bead gives you a nice little bit of weight to get your fly down real nice and quick, and all of these little fibers will flow as the water flows. So it's got a nice pulsating action to it. So this is just my first tutorial of many. If you guys want to see a particular pattern for me to tie, or are interested in other patterns that are good on trout and salmon, just leave your comments below, and hopefully I can get back and do the pattern you guys want me to do. Thanks for watching, everyone.